Who is the Buddha in his past life? Why did his disciples fall into hell? Who was the Buddha in his past life? One day on Vulture Peak in the city of Rajagriha, the Buddha told his disciples a story about the Phoenix King. He slowly recounted. Long ago, there was a Phoenix King who lived happily with his 500 beautiful young wives. He believed that his luxurious life would always continue smoothly, but one day, while flying over the old forest, he saw a beautiful female phoenix with sky-blue feathers gracefully gliding and singing melodiously. Her majestic beauty captivated the Phoenix King, filling him with a passionate love. He abandoned his 500 beautiful wives to follow his newfound love and live with the beautiful phoenix. Contrary to his 500 virtuous wives at home, this beautiful young phoenix was picky about food and accommodations and demanded to be pampered. The Phoenix King had to do everything to please her. Therefore, he had to fly around daily to find the sweetest fruits to bring back for his lover. At that time, in the city of Rajagriha, the queen contracted a strange illness. The king invited all the renowned physicians in the kingdom to diagnose and prescribe medicine, but her condition did not improve. One day, the queen fell into a delirious sleep and had a dream. In the dream, someone told her that her illness could only be cured by eating the flesh of the Phoenix King, or else she would die. When she woke up, she tearfully told the king. The king became worried and summoned his ministers to discuss the matter, then issued an order throughout the kingdom. Anyone who could capture the Phoenix King and present it to him would be rewarded with 1,000 pieces of gold and marry the princess. As soon as the king's order was issued, hunters flocked to the mountains and forests to capture the Phoenix King. They searched tirelessly day and night, ready to cross streams, climb mountains, and traverse seas, employing every method to catch this elusive creature. The Phoenix King was a highly intelligent bird, so ordinary people could not easily find it. However, this time the Phoenix King was lost in a romantic dream, spending his days searching for sweet fruits for his beloved, thus lowering his guard. Not long after, an experienced hunter tracked him and his lover. The hunter knew that the Phoenix King was the ruler of all birds and would not be easy to capture. After many days of contemplation, he devised a clever plan. He covered himself with honey mixed with bread and attached various sweet fruits to his body, turning himself into a mountain of fruit. He then sat motionless on a tree branch, patiently waiting. One early morning, as the sun rose and the birds left their nest to find food, the Phoenix King went in search of fruits for his lover. As he flew over the old forest, he smelled a sweet fragrance in the air and followed it to its source. Circling above, he saw a pile of fragrant ripe fruits on a large tree. Overjoyed, he thought, "How lucky, so many fruits. Now I no longer have to tirelessly search for fruits for my beloved every day." The Phoenix King quickly landed on the tree and perched on the pile of fruits, exactly where the hunter was camouflaged. But as soon as he grabbed a fruit, his feet became stuck and he couldn't pull them free. The hunter seized the opportunity and grabbed him with both hands. The Phoenix King, terrified, struggled and pleaded, "You must have endured such hardship sitting still like this to achieve something great. If you release me, I will show you a mountain of gold where you will become wealthy, a millionaire. My life is insignificant. Please have mercy and spare me." The hunter replied, "How can it be insignificant? The king has promised 1,000 pieces of gold and the princess's hand in marriage to anyone who captures you. How can your mountain of gold compare to the princess?" With that, the hunter joyfully tied up the Phoenix King and brought him to the king. The king, overjoyed, ordered the bird's flesh to be made into medicine for the queen. The Phoenix King said, "Your Majesty, if it is only to save the queen's life, I would not regret sacrificing myself. But I have a magical power that can cure the queen without her needing to eat my flesh. If you trust me, please bring a basin of water. I will recite a magical incantation over the water, and the queen will be healed by drinking and bathing in it. If it doesn't work, I will willingly accept death. But if the queen is cured, please let me return to the forest." The king, surprised, agreed and ordered a basin of water. As the Phoenix King recited the incantation, the queen drank and bathed in the water and miraculously became healthier and more beautiful than before. The news of the queen's recovery spread quickly, filling the kingdom with joy. The king, delighted and impressed by the Phoenix King's abilities, wanted to keep him in the palace. But honoring his promise, he reluctantly let the Phoenix King go. Before leaving the palace for the forest, the Phoenix King asked the king for permission to bless the Crescent Moon Lake with his magic incantation so that anyone in the kingdom who drank from the lake would be healed. The king gladly agreed. The Crescent Moon Lake became a magical medicine, and the news spread far and wide. The Phoenix King did not leave immediately, but perched on the palace roof to bid farewell to the king and the royal court one last time. From the roof, he proclaimed loudly, "There are 3 fools in this world. The first is me, the second is the hunter, and the third is your majesty." Seeing the king and the entire court in bewilderment, the Phoenix King continued, "As the saying goes, beauty is not a sword, but can still take lives. As the king of phoenixes, the sky and the water were my kingdom where I roamed freely. But enchanted by the beauty of my lover, I abandoned my 500 loyal wives who cared for me day and night. Because of my infatuation, I searched daily for food for a single beautiful phoenix, only to fall into the hunter's trap and nearly lose my life. That makes me the first fool." The hunter, despite my offer of a mountain of gold in exchange for my life, was so eager to marry the princess that he refused. No matter how beautiful the princess is, she is nothing more than a fleeting illusion. The grand career of a man can be ruined in an instant by beauty. The hunter, in his dream of marrying the princess, lost the mountain of gold, his wealth, and now even the princess. That makes him the second fool. As for your majesty, you were willing to kill anyone, even the Phoenix King, to make the queen happy. But killing a Phoenix King brings boundless karma. If I did not have my magic incantation, my head would have been severed, and I would have ended up in the queen's stomach. Your majesty would never be able to repay the karma accrued from killing me. Does that not make your majesty the third fool?" After finishing his story, the Phoenix King soared into the clear blue sky. The Buddha then addressed the assembly, saying, "The hunter in the story was the previous life of Devadatta, my cousin in this life. The queen who wanted to eat the Phoenix King was the previous life of Devadatta's wife today. The king at that time was the previous life of Shariputra, who is now the wisest disciple in the Sangha. As for the Phoenix King, it was my past life. You see, merely due to infatuation with beauty, I had to suffer the life of a phoenix. If it weren't for the vow to practice the Bodhisattva path, cultivate the Buddha Dharma, and vow to compassionately save all beings, there would be no Tathagata today. Therefore, people will remain trapped in the 6 realms of samsara, and only the Buddha Dharma is the sole path for a being to ascend. Why did the highly proficient disciples of Buddha Shakyamuni end up in hell? Our understanding of renunciation is that it refers to leaving worldly life, abandoning family and social careers, and entering a monastery or deep mountains to practice. The goal is to achieve liberation or perfection. In principle, a renunciate must abandon their worldly possessions. However, a recent land transaction in China involving the Shaolin Temple revealed the immense financial resources of the temple. According to local reports, a commercial plot in Zhengzhou, Henan province, was sold for 452 million yuan, about $68 million. One of the stakeholders of the winning bidder was the abbot of the Shaolin Temple in Songshan, Henan province. This abbot also holds an MBA, Master of Business Administration. It is known that since 2018, this abbot has been referred to as the monk tycoon in the area. Some media outlets even revealed that the prayer beads he wears are very expensive. These beads are called Jing Shui Jin Fa, where Jin Fa refers to a high-grade amber with a golden hue, and Jing Shui Jin Fa is a top-grade amber, clear and less impure. The prayer beads worn by the abbot are estimated to be made of 100 precious Jin Fa beads, which are extremely luxurious. In fact, during the time of Buddha Shakyamuni, there was also a person from a noble family who expressed his desire to renounce the world to Buddha Shakyamuni. He still wore gold and jewels. This person was Devadatta. Throughout Buddhist history, the name Devadatta has always been synonymous with evil. Thus, he is harshly condemned in Buddhist circles. So who was Devadatta, and what great crimes did he commit? Right after this, my duck invites you to join us in exploring Devadatta was the cousin of Buddha Shakyamuni and also a prince, naturally of noble status. He was tall and handsome. One day he, along with his younger brother Ananda and others, came to Buddha Shakyamuni to ask for ordination, becoming disciples of the Buddha. At that time, Devadatta told most of his companions that he was a member of the royal family and now wanted to renounce worldly wealth and glory to practice. But he wore the most luxurious clothes and jewelry. On the way to ordination, he used the most luxurious elephants and horse carriages. While saying he wanted to abandon worldly wealth and glory, his actions seemed to be telling everyone that he was the richest and most powerful prince going to ordain. After ordaining, Devadatta performed very well for the first 12 years and even possessed great supernatural powers. Given Devadatta's noble status before ordination, being a relative of Buddha Shakyamuni and also a prince, along with his good performance and great supernatural powers, many lay people and even some monks blindly worshipped him. Even Prince Ajatashatru of Magadha admired and worshipped Devadatta, offering him 500 portions of fine food daily. Gradually, Devadatta could not withstand the countless praises and admiration from the crowd. The desire for fame and fortune began to erode his resolve to practice. He began to see himself in a high position, even comparing himself to the Buddha. Surrounded by people, he felt no different from Buddha Shakyamuni. At this point, jealousy began to sprout within him. One day, Devadatta went to Buddha Shakyamuni and said that Buddha Shakyamuni was getting old. He suggested that the Buddha hand over the leadership of the Sangha to him. But Buddha Shakyamuni sternly refused because he saw that pride had arisen in Devadatta's heart. Thus, the Buddha declared that from now on, Devadatta would be responsible for everything he did in the name of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and Shakyamuni would not recognize it. Despite this, many of the Buddha's disciples still revered Devadatta, and some even thought that Buddha Shakyamuni's words were out of jealousy towards Devadatta. With the crowd's praise, Devadatta became increasingly arrogant and even harbored intentions to kill Buddha Shakyamuni. Eventually, he committed the 5 heinous crimes. The 5 heinous crimes in Buddhism are the most serious offenses: killing one's father, killing one's mother, killing an arhat, a liberated person, wounding a Buddha, even a small injury is severe, and causing schism in the Sangha, causing discord in a practicing community to the point that it breaks apart and members cannot practice together. Devadatta repeatedly sent people to assassinate Buddha Shakyamuni. However, those sent to kill the Buddha were ultimately converted by him. When the plan to send people to harm the Buddha failed, Devadatta turned to using animals. He intoxicated a fierce elephant and released it when Buddha Shakyamuni was entering the city for alms. Some monks fled in fear, while others risked their lives to protect their master. However, an astonishing scene occurred. The elephant, upon reaching Buddha Shakyamuni, stopped, knelt, and used its trunk to lick the Buddha's feet. Even the fierce elephant was converted by Buddha Shakyamuni. Devadatta, still unwilling to repent, tried to roll a large rock down to crush Buddha Shakyamuni. Although unsuccessful, the rock injured the Buddha's foot and caused bleeding, committing one of the 5 heinous crimes by wounding a Buddha. One of Buddha Shakyamuni's female disciples, Utpalavarna, tried to persuade Devadatta to repent and return to the right path. Unexpectedly, Devadatta beat her to death, committing another heinous crime by killing an arhat. Here, one might wonder why such an event occurred and whether the monks also had doubts. Moreover, Utpalavarna was the most spiritually powerful disciple. Could she not save herself? Buddha Shakyamuni told his disciples that this tragedy did not happen just once. It had occurred in the past. In a previous life, Devadatta was a fierce wolf and Utpalavarna was a mother goat. At that time, the goat was killed by the wolf. This time, it was due to the ripening of past karma that history repeated itself. Moreover, to satisfy his sinful desires, Devadatta proclaimed himself a great teacher and proposed many seemingly legitimate things. Some newly ordained monks, lacking deep understanding of the Dharma, sided with Devadatta. However, Buddha Shakyamuni, out of compassion, sent his disciples to persuade them. These monks returned to the Dharma and repented before Buddha Shakyamuni. Finally, all of Devadatta's evil plans failed. The karma clung to him, creating a huge chasm in the ground where he stood. Thus Devadatta was cast into Avicii hell, the hell of incessant suffering. He was destined to die in immense pain and grievous sin. The term Avicii hell originates from scriptures such as the Lotus Sutra, the Abhidharmakosa, and the Buddhist texts of phonetic explanations. Those condemned to Avicii hell are the most malevolent individuals, those who have committed the gravest sins. Being sent to Avicii hell means there is no hope of liberation, only enduring endless suffering. Devadatta, once a well-behaved disciple of the Buddha, highly esteemed, fell into degradation, becoming a great evil figure, and was ultimately cast into hell. This serves as a profound lesson for humanity. Buddha Shakyamuni said that if Prince Ajatashatru of Magadha had not offered 500 portions of fine food, Devadatta might not have committed such terrible deeds. It was the blind admiration and praise of those around him that inflated Devadatta's ego, leading him to his downfall into hell. Historically, there have been figures like Devadatta who persecuted the Buddhas and their disciples, although the manifestations of this persecution have changed with the times and society. Who were the chief disciples of the Buddha? What were their abilities and virtues? Many temples enshrine Buddha Shakyamuni along with his 10 great disciples. Here's a brief summary of these great disciples' lives. 1. Mahakassapa. The foremost in ascetic practices, Mahakassapa was known for his dedication to ascetic practices and was a central figure in the first Buddhist council where the Buddhist teachings were compiled. His full name is Mahakassapa. He was born in Mahabala village near Rajagaha in central India. His father was a wealthy Brahmin. His parents, after years of being childless, prayed for a child under a Bodhi tree, and soon after, Mahakassapa was born. He was given the childhood name Pippalayanar and had 32 auspicious marks, behaving differently from ordinary children. At the age of 8, he was initiated into Brahmin practices and quickly mastered them. Upon hearing about the Buddha, he sought him out and joined the Sangha. His wife, Bhadra Kapilani, also became a nun. Known for his contentment and dedication to practice, he was titled the foremost ascetic. When the Buddha passed away, Mahakassapa was traveling in the far north. Upon hearing the sad news, he traveled day and night to return. To Ananda, the foremost in learning, Ananda, also known as Anan or Nandar, was born in Kapilavastu and was the younger brother of Devadatta. He was the son of King Amritodana and a cousin of Buddha Shakyamuni. Under the guidance of Mahakassapa, he practiced diligently and attained enlightenment. At the age of 55, Ananda became the Buddha's attendant and served him for 25 years. When the Buddha passed away, Ananda and Anuruddha were by his side providing care. Known for his extensive learning and excellent memory, Ananda was called the foremost in learning. During the Great Council, most of the scriptures were based on his memory. Ananda was compassionate, gentle, and handsome, often admired by women, which led to several difficulties. 20 years after the Buddha's passing, sensing his own end approaching, Ananda gathered 500 monks by the Ganges, delivered his final teachings, and peacefully passed away at the age of 120. His relics were buried near the Bamboo Grove Monastery in Rajagaha. 3. Sariputra, the foremost in wisdom. Sariputra, originally named Upatisar, was known for his wisdom. According to the Mahaprajnaparamita Sastra, the name Sariputra means son of Sari because his mother's eyes resembled those of the Sari bird. Educated by his erudite father and wise mother, Sariputra became proficient in various arts. Along with his friend Madhgalyanar, he had many disciples and a significant following. One day, he met the monk Asaji, learned about Buddha Shakyamuni, and immediately felt admiration, leading over 350 disciples to the Bamboo Grove Monastery to take refuge and receive full ordination. All 6 of his siblings also became disciples of the Buddha. The Buddha praised Sariputra's wisdom and leadership, calling him the foremost in wisdom. Sariputra passed away before the Buddha. Sensing his end, he returned to his hometown, sat calmly, and entered nirvana. It is said that he later became known as Huashan Buddha and returned to benefit all beings. 4. Subhuti, the foremost in understanding emptiness. Subhuti, meaning good fortune, non-arising, was born in Savatthi and was the younger brother of Anathapindika. His father was a wealthy merchant named Sumana. According to the Vimalakirti Sutra, when Subhuti was born, his house was empty, hence his name non-arising. This startled his family, who invited a fortune teller, who declared the child as auspicious and named him Subhuti. Naturally compassionate and kind, Subhuti was uninterested in disputes. He ordained and became renowned for his practice of non-contention and benevolent acts. He was called Good Deeds. Later, he sought refuge in the Buddha, often meditating on emptiness, becoming one of the Buddha's 10 great disciples, known as the foremost in understanding emptiness. The Prajnaparamita texts regard him as a patriarch. 5. Purna, the foremost in preaching. Purna, also known as full-intentioned compassion or satisfied compassion, was born in Labhaga village near Kapilavastu. He was the son of a wealthy merchant and the nephew of Ashvaghosha. His father was the chief minister to King Suddhodana, highly respected. Despite being belittled by his elder brother and sold to a lowly merchant, Purna remained devoted to the Buddha, donating his wealth to build monasteries and vowed to follow the Buddha's teachings. Skilled in preaching and debate, Purna was known as the foremost preacher. Later, he established 500 monasteries in Sarana, training 500 disciples, significantly contributing to the propagation of Buddhism. 6. Mahamudgayana, the foremost in supernatural powers, commonly known as Moggallana. His name means Great Wood Clan or Great Bean. According to legend, his ancestors lived peacefully in the mountains, often eating green beans, hence their surname. Moggallana's mother belonged to this clan. He was originally named Kalita, born in Kalita village north of Rajagaha. His father was the king's chief minister. From a young age, he was close friends with Sariputra, with whom he resolved to leave worldly life and seek the path. Moggallana was renowned for his supernatural powers, enabling him to discover his mother suffering in hell. He sought the Buddha's guidance to save her, ultimately rescuing her, earning him the reputation of great filial piety known to this day. Due to resentment from non-Buddhists in Tran, Moggallana was ambushed and killed on Mount Isigili. His loss was a great blow to the Buddha's Sangha. 7. Mahakatyayana, the foremost in debates. Mahakatyayana, whose Sanskrit name means great wisdom, was also known as Hao Kian. His original name was Nanadada, and he was the son of a wealthy man from the region of Avanti. His father was a renowned legal scholar. Following in his father's footsteps, Mahakatyayana became a wise and respected noble. After joining Buddha Shakyamuni's monastic community, he demonstrated his exceptional talent and was highly praised for his debating skills, earning great respect from all. After Buddha Shakyamuni's birth, King Suddhodana invited the sage Asita from Mount Dundabika to the palace to predict the prince's future. Asita was Mahakatyayana's uncle. From a young age, Mahakatyayana learned spiritual practices from his uncle. Later, he went to Deer Park and took refuge with the Buddha. After attaining enlightenment, he devoted himself to spreading the Buddha's teachings in rural areas and was regarded as the founder of the Bariya monastery. 8. Anuruddha, the foremost in divine vision. Anuruddha, originally named Anyaloda, was the son of King Amartadana and a cousin of Buddha Shakyamuni. He was known for his intelligence and quick wit. From a young age, it was evident that he would become a great talent in Kapilavastu. After hearing Buddha's teachings, he decided to renounce worldly life and requested to join the Buddha's disciples. One day, he was reprimanded by the Buddha for dozing off during a teaching. Anuruddha then vowed to wear only patched robes and never sleep. This caused him to go blind, but his unwavering determination was greatly admired. Later, he gained supernatural powers and was praised as the foremost in divine vision, becoming one of the leading monks. When the Buddha entered nirvana, Anuruddha attended to him and participated in the first council to compile the scriptures, contributing significantly. 9. Upali, the foremost in discipline. Upali, whose Sanskrit name means close guard or close adherence, was from the lowly barber caste in Rajagaha. Initially, he worked as a barber but was known for his honesty and diligence, earning the trust of officials and royalty. Later, he joined the Buddha along with the noblemen of the Shakya clan. The Buddha first imparted the precepts to Upali. His deep understanding of discipline enabled him to resolve many complex issues within the monastic community, earning him the title of the foremost in discipline. After the Buddha's passing, Upali took on the most challenging task of compiling the Vinaya, disciplinary texts, successfully completing this monumental work. 10. Rahula, the foremost in secret practices. Rahula was the son of Buddha Shakyamuni and Yasodhara. According to legend, he stayed in his mother's womb for 6 years, hence the name Rahula, which means obstacle or fetter. It is also said that Rahula was born on the day of a solar eclipse, which is another reason for his name. 3 years after Buddha's enlightenment, he ordered Sariputra and Maudgalyayana to encourage Rahula to ordain. Rahula accepted Sariputra as his teacher and joined the monastic community. Through diligent practice and the Buddha's guidance, Rahula vowed to strictly adhere to the precepts and assist in practicing the path, earning him the title of the foremost in secret practices, living up to his father's expectations. A buffalo took 3 lives in one day. Buddha explains the cause to warn the world. A buffalo inexplicably went berserk and killed 3 people in 3 different locations in one day. Even after the buffalo was slaughtered and its head severed, it mysteriously managed to kill the final victim. Why did this buffalo display such aggressive behavior? Today, let's listen to Buddha's explanation with my duck. During Buddha Shakyamuni's time in Rajagaha, there was a merchant named Fat Kasar who wanted to buy goods early in the morning and headed to Lavi city. Upon reaching the city gate, he was gored to death by a buffalo. The buffalo's owner, fearing future trouble from keeping the aggressive animal, sold it at a low price. The new owner led the buffalo home and, while crossing a river, tried to let it drink water. Instead, the buffalo's fierce nature emerged and it gored the new owner to death. The victim's family, enraged, killed the buffalo and sold its meat at the market. A farmer, tempted by the cheap price, bought the buffalo's head, tied its horns with a rope, and carried it home. In the tropical heat of India, the farmer grew hot and thirsty, hung the buffalo's head on a tree, and rested in its shade. Strangely, the rope snapped, and the buffalo's head fell, killing the farmer instantly. Within a single day, the buffalo had caused the deaths of 3 people. King Bimbisara, intrigued by this unusual occurrence, knew there must be a reason behind it. He and his ministers brought offerings to Vulture Peak Mountain to seek Buddha's insight. Buddha told King Bimbisara, in a past life, 3 merchants went to a neighboring country for trade. To save money, they rented a room from an old woman instead of staying at a hotel. After agreeing on a price, they stayed overnight. The next morning, while the old woman was away, they left without paying. Upon returning and discovering their departure, the old woman was furious and chased after them to collect the rent. Catching up with the one carrying the heavy load, she was insulted and humiliated by him. Unable to do anything, she vowed, "You are all scoundrels, taking advantage of my old age. Your actions will be repaid. In my next life, whether I am reborn as a human or not, I will seek revenge and kill all 3 of you." The Buddha explained that the aggressive buffalo was the reincarnation of the old woman, and the 3 merchants who had insulted her were the victims in this life. The story highlights the law of karma, showing how past actions lead to present consequences. It also emphasizes the dangers of harboring resentment, as the old woman's vow led to further suffering in her next life. The Buddha often reminded us to be mindful of our speech and actions, as harmful intentions can lead to negative outcomes. The story illustrates that a single moment of anger can create a cycle of revenge, perpetuating suffering for all involved. The Buddha's teachings encourage us to respond to adversity with compassion and patience, transforming negative situations into opportunities for growth and positive change. By cultivating a kind and forgiving heart, we can break the cycle of karma and achieve peace and happiness. Evil deeds can bring retribution back on the doer. If you harbor ill intentions towards people or animals, you will be the first to suffer, as the old woman in the story lost her human form. Therefore, the Buddha often advised us to be careful with our words and always reminded us that disaster lies at the tip of the tongue. We need to be cautious in our speech and actions, control our minds, and guard our mouths. Do not harbor evil intentions or speak slanderous or harmful words. Good and evil arise in a single thought, and blessings and misfortunes follow like a shadow. In life, we may encounter adversities or negative situations. People may insult us, deceive us, or even betray, slander, and harm us. In such moments, if we maintain a compassionate heart, even if others harbor ill will towards us, we will not be angered. Instead, we should use patience, remain unmoved by circumstances, and respond to everything with good intentions. This will surely lead to positive results and good fortune. A pregnant woman murdered in Saigon seeks vengeance through a security guard's dream. Below is a true story about a woman who was unjustly killed and returned to haunt a security guard in his dreams for vengeance. This account was narrated by Mr. Nguyen Thanh Tuyen, the former chief medical examiner of Saigon. Shortly after taking over his job, Mr. Hot, the head of security at the Minh Dong flour mill in District 6, Saigon, experienced a strange dream. Every night, in his dreams, Mr. Hot saw a petite woman dressed in a white shirt and black pants, who approached him to talk. In their conversations, the woman expressed a craving for boiled peanuts and asked him to offer them for a while. Then, on a hot, restless night, Mr. Hot had another dream, where the woman in white and black appeared again, this time asking him for a different favor: to move her house because it was too hot where she was. In his dream, Mr. Hot replied, "How would I know where your house is to help you move?" To his surprise, the woman answered, "My house is the oil drum with the life plant on the rooftop of this building. Go and see for yourself." Despite never having sleepwalked before, in this dream, Mr. Hot found himself sleepwalking. He got out of bed, walked to the stairs, and climbed to the rooftop. He only woke up when he bumped hard against the closed rooftop door and realized he had been led there by the woman in his dream. Being a brave man, the next morning, Mr. Hot unlocked the rooftop door to find the oil drum with the life plant, exactly as described in the dream. Indeed, he found a large oil drum filled with soil and planted with a life plant in the sunniest spot on the rooftop. A few shovels into the soil, Mr. Hot discovered human bones buried inside. Upon receiving Mr. Hot's information about a corpse buried in the oil drum, the District 6 police launched an investigation. The autopsy revealed that the victim was a pregnant woman wearing black pants and a white shirt, matching the description of the woman in Mr. Hot's dream. The final investigation report identified the victim as Nguyen Thị Mo, who had previously dated Mr. Nguyen Thanh B, the deputy chairman of the ward. The ward office had been located where the flour mill now stands. Before dating Mo, Mr. B had a girlfriend in Bến Tre. However, because of the distance, when he met Mo and found her attractive, he decided to date her to fill the void and ease his loneliness. But after some time, Mo announced her pregnancy and urged him to marry her. Naturally, B could not marry Mo because he had already set a wedding date with his girlfriend in Bến Tre. Fearing Mo might cause a scandal and jeopardize his position, he devised a plan to kill her and eliminate the problem. That spring, during a tree planting campaign, in his role as the ward chairman, B ordered his subordinates to bring a large oil drum filled with soil to the rooftop of the office to plant a life plant, claiming the plant needed lots of sunlight and instructing that the drum be placed in the sunniest spot on the rooftop. He hoped the sun's heat would hasten the decomposition of the body buried in the drum. With everything arranged that evening, B invited Mo to the office to talk. Mo, dressed in her black pants and white shirt, eagerly anticipating their future together, unsuspectingly went to meet him. Taking advantage of a moment when Mo was off guard, B murdered her and brought her body to the rooftop, placing it in the oil drum in a seated position before filling the drum with soil and planting the life plant on top. However, no matter how well one tries to hide a crime, it will eventually be exposed. Ultimately, B confessed to his crime. Now, reflecting on the dream of the pregnant woman seeking vengeance, even after nearly 40 years, Mr. Nguyen Thanh Tuyen still feels a mix of emotions. He said, "The strange events described were outside the case file and cannot be explained. However, life indeed works on a system of cause and effect. The net of heaven is vast and sparse, but it does not miss anything. If in life there truly is an afterlife, a cycle of reincarnation, then each human life is but a day, and the next life is just another day. Waking up with peace and good intentions, living for others, is the most precious thing. Struggling, scheming, and plotting bring no real benefits in this long journey of life, but lead only to immense suffering in repaying karmic debts." Origin of the Vu Lan festival and why the pardoning of lost souls occurs on the full moon day of the 7th month. People often say, The full moon of the 7th month is the day for pardoning lost souls. This tradition originates from a Buddhist story about the Venerable Mukien Lian, Modgalyayana, saving his mother. Before becoming a monk, Mukien Lian was a devoted and filial son, dutifully caring for his parents. His mother, however, insisted on having meat in all 3 of her daily meals. Despite Mukien Lian's frequent advice to avoid sinful acts, his mother would secretly kill livestock to eat. As a result, she accrued heavy negative karma. After her death, Mukien Lian's mother was condemned to the Avishi hell. Upon ordaining and practicing diligently under the Buddha's guidance, Mukien Lian quickly attained the status of an arhat and became known as the foremost disciple in supernatural powers. During the retreat period in the 7th month, one day, while preparing for meditation, Mukien Lian remembered his mother and her past deeds. Worried about her fate, he entered deep meditation to locate her and found himself in the terrifying Avichi hell. There he saw the famished ghosts with bloated bellies, thin necks, and limbs like dry branches, all crying out in hunger. Among them, he recognized his mother, suffering the same fate. Despite his great supernatural powers, Mukien Lian was powerless against his mother's severe karma. Moved by her suffering, he offered her a bowl of rice and a pitcher of water. Overjoyed, she eagerly took the offerings, but as she brought them to her mouth, flames erupted, turning the food to ash and the water to steam. Witnessing this, Mukien Lian felt helpless sorrow, realizing that even his extraordinary abilities could not alleviate his mother's suffering due to her deep-rooted karma. Upon emerging from his meditation, he hurried to seek guidance from the Buddha. Prostrating respectfully, he asked, "Venerable Sir, I am deeply distressed. What karma has my mother accumulated, and how can I save her?" The Buddha replied, "The karmic consequences of all beings are indeed their own doing. Your mother in her lifetime accumulated negative karma through greed, anger, and delusion. Karma created by oneself must be borne by oneself. This karmic burden is as immense as Mount Sumeru, and no one can relieve it." Feeling despondent but still determined, Venerable Modgalyayan implored the Buddha for a way to save his mother. His filial piety moved the Buddha, who then said, "To save your mother, your supernatural powers alone are insufficient due to her heavy karmic burden. It requires the collective pure merits of many enlightened monks. Together, their focused effort can help your mother." Venerable Modgalyayana asked, "Where can I find so many pure and meritorious individuals?" The Buddha answered, "This is not difficult. From the 4th lunar month to July, many pure-hearted monks abandon distractions and increase their wisdom. During this period, they discover the truth and penetrate profound teachings. These monks possess the most abundant pure merits. If you can invite them to join their hearts in efforts to bless your mother, she can be saved." The Buddha also instructed, "You should also create merits for your mother. On the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, which marks the end of the retreat season, offer a grand meal to the Sangha, creating good connections with everyone. With a pure heart and joy, collectively bless your mother. This will generate a significant force capable of dissolving her karmic obstacles." On the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, Venerable Modgalyayana prepared an elaborate vegetarian feast, offered with the utmost sincerity. The offering was exceedingly virtuous and solemn. Afterward, everyone united in mind and intention to bless his mother. Because of their diligent cultivation and abundant virtues, the blessings accumulated with immense joy and spiritual support. The power was indeed formidable. On the first night of the offering, while in meditation, Venerable Modgalyayana saw a radiant celestial being approaching from afar. Upon closer look, he realized it was his mother. She thanked him, saying, "Thanks to your meditative power and filial piety, the compassionate vow power of the venerable monks, and the compassionate blessings of the Buddha, I have escaped the realm of hungry ghosts and have been reborn in heaven." Seeing his mother ascend from hell to heaven during his meditation filled Venerable Modgalyayana with profound gratitude. His deep filial piety, combined with the compassion of sentient beings and the pure wisdom and merits of the Sangha, had saved his mother. From that time onwards, people began to celebrate the Ulambana festival, offering vegetarian meals to the Sangha. Over time, The Ulambana festival in Buddhism evolved into a major event commemorating Venerable Maud Galiana's filial piety. Each year, Buddhists hold grand Ulambana ceremonies. Today, it is known as the Festival of Hungry Ghosts or the Jamyuan Festival. Good and evil deeds have their recompenses, as the eyes of the gods are as bright as lightning. The story of Maud Galiana saving his mother not only explains the origin of the Ulambana festival, but also imparts a universal cultural lesson. Actions have consequences. The karma created by oneself must be borne by oneself. Even with great supernatural powers like Maud Galiana, one cannot bear another's karmic burden. Thus, whether it is the karma of parents or friends, the creator of the karma must endure the consequences and rectify their actions towards goodness to hope for liberation from suffering. Maud Galiana's mother, deeply entrenched in negative karma during her life, could not let go of her selfish desires even in hell. This compounded her suffering. Why did the food turn into flames when it reached her mouth? The ancients said, "Whispered words among people, the heavens hear like thunder. Dark rooms conceal nothing from divine sight." Indeed, the thoughts in one's heart are not hidden from the eyes of the gods. A bit of selfish intent is known to the gods. A bit of pure intention is also evident to the gods. Therefore, even a ghost in hell, if harboring malicious, narrow-minded thoughts, must continue to suffer to repay their karmic debt. With compassion permeating the heavens and earth, the 15th day of the 7th lunar month is considered a day of forgiveness for the deceased and a time for descendants to honor their ancestors. Most importantly, it reminds future generations that the law of cause and effect is an immutable universal truth. Cultivation is self-driven. Each person's karma must be borne by themselves, and one cannot rely on the supernatural abilities of others to repay their debts. Finally, the story also illustrates the miraculous power of compassion. When pure intentions converge across the world, they create a compassionate energy field that can move heaven and earth and save this world. Why people forget their past lives, according to the Buddha. One day, while resting under an ancient tree outside the city of Rajagriha, the Buddha and his disciples were contemplating. A newly ordained monk named Kian Chan was pondering a question. The Buddha explained that all beings have past lives, but why do they not remember them? Understanding Kian Chan's thoughts before he could voice his question, the Buddha enlightened his disciples. Reincarnation and past lives are mysteries that science has yet to explain. Regarding spiritual phenomena that cannot be elucidated by common definitions, before delving into what the Buddha revealed, let us explore a modern case. An Oxford-educated monk explains the invisible realm. In the famous book Journey to the East, author Nguyen Phong tells the story of Harmut, a learned monk knowledgeable about the invisible realm. Harmut was not Indian but Egyptian, living alone in a small house built into a cliff. When a delegation of top scientists from the Royal Society of London was sent to India to study the mysticism and supernatural abilities of humans, they witnessed profound insights into ancient and esoteric sciences, such as yoga, meditation, karma, the law of cause and effect, and the realms of life and death. This time they met Professor Harmut, an expert on the invisible realm. Harmut revealed that not only do spirits exist, but they are also his subjects of study. Professor Montaigne impatiently asked, "If you study the invisible realm, can you explain the concepts of heaven, hell, and life after death?" The monk solemnly replied, "Different vibrations correspond to different realms. This is simply the phenomenon of like attracting like. When one dies, the composition of the subtle body rearranges itself. The lighter layers are inside, and the heavier ones form the outer shell. This is like wearing multiple layers of clothing in winter. The inner layers are thin, while the outer ones are thick. In the 7 realms of the underworld, the 7th realm has the heaviest and darkest vibrations. It is the abode of malevolent spirits, murderers, butchers, social outcasts, and those with vile thoughts. In the underworld, appearances change according to one's thoughts, so those with strong animalistic tendencies often take on terrifying forms. The uninformed might call them demons or hungry ghosts lurking around taverns, slaughterhouses, seeking material pleasures. Those who died from sexual desires wander around brothels, resonating with the pleasures of the living and seeking to influence them. If someone consumes alcohol or drugs, in the moment they lose control, spirits may briefly possess them to indulge in leftover material pleasures. Harmut explained that a person with a pure and virtuous life would not linger in the spirit world but awaken in a corresponding realm. According to their thoughts and actions on earth, they will find themselves in a matching realm after death. This is the law of like attracts like. The entire delegation was silent, pondering the monk's scientifically precise terminology. Though it was an interesting theory, it remained unproven. Could it be a fanciful hypothesis of imaginative people like Asians? Harmut smiled, sensing their thoughts, and asked, "Do you know that I am also a doctor of physics, graduated from Oxford University? I graduated in 1864 and was the first Egyptian to earn this degree." The delegation verified this detail, finding that Oxford's records indeed listed a Dr. Harmut L., an Egyptian who graduated in 1864 with a PhD in physics. They asked, "How did you gain such knowledge of this realm? Did you read books or gather evidence?" Harmut said that even as a student, he was fascinated by metaphysical physics. But science has its limits. His research led him to mysticism. He went to India and Tibet, where he met a lama who specialized in studying the underworld. Afterward, he meditated in seclusion for 10 years, awakening certain special senses. Those who develop spiritual life through practice can also gain understanding of the invisible realm. Returning to the issue that the disciple was concerned about, the Buddha said that everyone has a past life. Yet why do people not remember it? The Buddha enlightened them with profound clarity and wisdom. The seed in the tree. The Buddha said, "Now my disciples, look at this tree. It started as a seed and has now grown into a vast tree. Under the influence of conditions like soil, water, sunlight, and wind, the seed sprouted. The sprout grew into a trunk. The trunk produced branches, and the branches bore leaves, flowers, and fruits. Through many transformations can these roots, trunk, flowers, and fruits return to the original seed?" The disciples replied, "No, Venerable Sir, they cannot." The Buddha continued, "After death, the mind follows the good or bad deeds performed during life and moves on to the next life, where it meets new parents, takes on a new form, new habits, and experiences different pleasures and sufferings. Due to these changes, it no longer resembles the previous life. It is like how a tree cannot revert to being a seed." Venerable Kian Chan asked, "Since I was born, I have seen many people die, but why do their minds not return to appear before the living?" The Buddha said, "If one performs good deeds, the mind follows the karma of those good deeds to be reborn and cannot return. When the mind leaves the body, it is like brass that has been forged into iron. The original form is lost and cannot be restored. In this life, if one does good deeds, they will attain a human body in the next life with different parents. The mind encounters 6 types of obstructions. 1. In the afterlife, it cannot return. 2. It enters the womb. 3. Upon leaving the womb, it forgets previous memories. 4. After the first cry at birth, new awareness forms, erasing past memories. 5. Desire for food upon birth causes further memory loss. 6. Growing up and adopting new habits and experiences further obscures past memories." The bright torch in darkness. The Buddha continued, "If the karma created by someone in their life is animal karma, they will naturally follow the form of an animal and cannot return before humans. Just like a cicada nymph living underground, once it molts into a cicada, can it be returned to a nymph? Human birth and death follow this principle. When life ends and the mind leaves the body, it takes on a new form due to different karmic conditions. Just like a cicada on a tree cannot revert to a nymph underground, humans follow the 3 types of karma: body, speech, and mind. After death, the mind can go to a bad realm or hell or take on an animal form. Their sinful karma is like a net capturing their mind. Throughout a lifetime, people experience countless changes and cannot remember all past events. In old age, they cannot recall childhood memories, let alone past lives. The barriers of ignorance and the confines of the womb obscure past lives. People see only the present, parents, relatives, and current events. Thus, they cannot see where they came from in previous lives. Whether they enjoyed blessings or suffer punishment, love or hate each other, these are the karmic results of past good or bad deeds. Without the pure eye of Dharma, one cannot see or know. People walk blindly toward the light, The Buddha asked his disciples, "Imagine a moonless night with 5 objects of different colors placed in the darkness. Would any of the thousands of people called upon to distinguish the colors be able to do so?" The disciples replied, "No, they could not." The Buddha continued, "What if someone brought a torch to illuminate them?" The disciples replied, "With light, people can immediately distinguish the 5 colors." The Buddha said, "If a fool walks away from the light, he will never see the 5 colors." Similarly, people who do not cultivate themselves, go with the flow of worldly desires, and do not practice good deeds, are like fools walking away from the light into darkness, unable to see the truth of life and death. They are like those walking in the dark night with their eyes closed, unable to see anything. People muddled between life and death, bound by misfortune and fortune, happiness and sorrow, cannot remember their past lives, just like walking in the dark with their eyes closed. The Buddha's enlightenment on life in the 3 realms. The Buddha continued, "Now I am a Buddha with a pure wisdom eye. I know all beings in the cycle of birth and death in the 3 realms. Like looking into a clear pond and seeing the bottom, I can see the fish swimming within. Observing birth and death is like watching fish in clear water, unobstructed. It is like standing on a high bridge, watching the continuous flow of people below. With high perspective, I understand the origins of life as clearly as looking down from a mountain, seeing the villages and people below. Due to various obstacles, relying only on the physical eyes, one cannot see the cause and effect of past, present, and future lives. Therefore, some dare to say falsely that there is no karma across 3 lifetimes. Those who have not attained enlightenment often engage in impure deeds and are submerged in the cycle of birth and death. Upon leaving the old body, they are bound by a new body, disturbed by the 4 sufferings of birth, aging, illness, and death. Ultimately, they do not realize that their consciousness is liberated according to the good or bad karma accumulated during their lifetime. Therefore, everyone must diligently observe the precepts, deeply contemplate the matters of birth and death, where they come from and where they go, what causes and reasons propel them. By attaining the pure eye that cuts through delusion, all doubts will naturally be resolved. At this point, the Buddha's words enlightened Ven Qian Chan along with 500 monks and lay people. They all rose, bowed to the Buddha and said, "Only now do we see the majestic and boundless nature of the Dharma." Humans, being in delusion, find it difficult to fully comprehend with mere scientific understanding. What do you all think about today's topic? Please leave your comments below the video so we can share our thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to receive updates when the latest videos are posted.